you so much. So I'll introduce, I'll pass over to Lara to introduce herself.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Morning, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Lara Manton. I run LJM Bookkeeping. I've been an ICB bookkeeper for almost 15 years. I sit on the ICB's advisory council as well, and I am a former Luca winner. So if you're thinking about your Luca applications, don't forget you've got a couple of weeks to get those in. For the last almost a year now, I've also worked with Approval Max as their head of bookkeeping for EMEA. So looking at the system, looking at how they can help bookkeepers and make sure that the system works in the best way for us and our clients.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lara. It's great to always have you. And yeah, we really appreciate your presence here. So thank you. So we'll move on shortly we'll move on to the agenda because you've got a jam-packed webinar today. We hope that you do take something from this. So firstly, we'll go through the reality of bookkeeping today. Many of you who are joining today are bookkeepers. So we really want to hone in on that. How does it look on a day-to-day basis? And how does the tasks that you're doing impact your mental health, whether it's positively or negatively? Then we'll move on to the role of automation when it comes to stress management, which is very, very important because ultimately, we've got our jobs, but we want to ensure that we have a good mental health and well-being to be able to be the best version of ourselves, whether it's to our families, to our friends. So that's really important. And how can we look at automation to facilitate that and support that? Then we'll move on to boosting efficiencies and accuracy in general and how technology could be used to your advantage in that regard. And then we'll kind of end on achieving a work-life balance. What things are in place? What tips could we give you to just take away with you moving forward that you could use in your day-to-day lives? And then we'll end on reigniting your passion for bookkeeping because that's what we want. You are all amazing bookkeepers. We want to make sure that there's never a point where you lose that light or you lose that passion. So how can you reignite that using automation or technology?
So if you know a little bit about me, I use quite a lot of automation in my practice, and a lot of software, and that's how I do it as a sole practitioner. So I don't have a team, but I have a lot of kind of systems and software set up. So I think it's a really good one for if you're kind of scared about growing or you don't know how to grow or you're scared about kind of taking clients on. I have 55 clients. So it is possible to kind of use that automation to balance it out. So you're not working like 80-hour weeks or getting stressed with clients and all the rest of it. So this is really topic that's really passionate, really close to my heart as well, about kind of making the most out of everything that's out there as bookkeepers and using them as tools that we can leverage to help our clients, as opposed to kind of being scared of the automation side.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, you're definitely an amazing bookkeeper, but it's good to have you to just share your knowledge about this. And I'm sure many bookkeepers here today will be able to take some knowledge and some advice. So thank you. So I'm just going to launch the first poll today, and this should show up on your side. But the question is, do you feel overwhelmed by repetitive tasks in your day-to-day work? Please do let us know. And if there's anyone that feels confident, please do drop a comment below. If there's any specific things that you may highlight or flag that is difficult on a day-to-day basis. So I can see the results trickling in. Can you see it on your side, Laura?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's getting there. It keeps flipping over.
I love this bit when you can see it moving around, but I'm sure you could all see it. But as it stands now, about 52% of you believe that you are finding repetitive tasks overwhelming. And I'm sure, Laurie, you may be able to resonate with that.
Yeah, I think certainly the bookkeeping world's come a long way since I first started, but it is the nature of our work means that a lot of the things are repetitive and are kind of we do the same things for the same clients or we do the same things across different clients. So the repetitive stuff is possibly the stuff that's not quite as interesting, not quite as kind of enjoyable in terms of kind of getting into getting into it and getting into what we like doing. So I think there are a lot of ways you can kind of automate and help with those, even on a small basis,
Yeah.
so that you just kind of can focus on the stuff you really enjoy doing and the things that give you kind of the passion and enjoy the reason you started bookkeeping in the first place. Because I'm pretty sure most of us didn't start bookkeeping in the first place to enter purchase invoices into a system. But there's so much more with bookkeeping that we can do and help with, that I think that this is the backbone, this is the really important stuff, but it's not always the most enjoyable stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, just off the back of that, it will be good if anyone, I'm just going to look at the comment section. Um, if there's any like specific challenges that you do face with your day-to-day bookkeeping tasks, please do share, feel free to share it in the comment section below. You could also do it anonymously. But if not, that's not a problem at all.
There's a lot of kind of now there's a lot more systems out there that can help with things like, as I say, purchase ledger entry. I mean, when I first started, it was all on Sage, and the only way you could automate it was using the F6 button to like copy the line above. But you were literally typing out line by line, purchase ledgers, sales ledgers, all those kind of things, and even keying in the bank. There's so much that we now take for granted a little bit, like bank feeds, having bank feeds, or being able to import CSVs of documents, or OCR has come a really long way. But
Yeah.
actually, they're like the groundwork to a bigger picture. You can kind of use them, as I say, like there's no way that I would be able to do what I do without automation. And I've always said that, without OCR. I put 38,000 transactions through OCR last year, or 38,000 documents. There's like, how much time would it have taken me back in the day to actually key those in? And again, it's one of those where this is where your pricing comes in as well. We've moved away from the hourly rates when I first started, because actually the time it took you to key things in was so much greater, and actually you were doing the basics, and you weren't like, the move to value pricing is actually, what does the client get out of it? Like, I'm doing the same thing, but actually probably better in some regards, because the system's reading that information. There's no me with a typo having gone number blind, typing in the wrong, transposing numbers, or typing in the wrong date on it, or whatever. So there's more accuracy that comes in from that. And then you've got, obviously you're still adding the same level of service to your client, if better level of service, if you're using these tools. But it's always a balance. You've got to make sure that you're pricing that in, because if you're not if you were, and that's why I moved away from hourly bookkeeping, because I was like, well, I'm doing more for you and better, but I'm charging you less because it's taking me less time. That doesn't, right. You've got to make sure that you get that balance with you and your business.
Yeah, yeah, that's so great. And I think, to your point, Laura, technology has evolved so much. And I think it's we really need to get to the point where we are using it to our advantage. Like, as you said, if you were to input those thousands of transactions on your own, that you probably wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't have been able to scale your business to where you are today. And you've got time to add value to your clients. And what you don't want to do is get to a point in business or as bookkeepers where you're just doing things because you're rushing and you're not giving the quality. Because now, especially, even for me, I work as a partner success manager at Approval Max, and I deal with so many different accountants and bookkeepers, and I hear what they say, but they're very much big on adding value, because clients are very big on vocalizing where they're not getting value, adding reviews. So it's really important that we see what tools are out there and how can you equip yourself as a bookkeeper to ensure that you're adding value, but you're also giving that quality. And this is where technology can come in, because we're only human, right? We can only do so much in the space that we have. So yeah, thank you for adding that.
I think there's it's really interesting as well, the different areas that, or like with AI and with automation and RPA and different things coming in. I think there's a lot kind of, it's scary. It's scary to think I'm going to hand over some of those tasks to someone that isn't a person and I can't speak to on a daily basis. But I think so there's sometimes some of that like delegation control issues, but once you sort of start slowly and start bringing those into your practice and focus just on one area, like what is your biggest pain point in your practice? Can I automate that? What is the thing I spend my most time of my day doing? You
Yeah.
then like it can then be a bit of a snowball effect because it's like, yay, it works. I can do that. I can get that off my desk and focus on something else. And then you kind of, some of it sometimes just giving yourself back the time to free up, like looking at your practice as a business owner rather than being in your practice. So, like, can I take that off my desk? Can I do that? And then I can be a bit more strategic. I can then plan a project. I can then look at what I want to do. I can then kind of go from the next thing. And it's not just around also like the internal, the client side of things. Can you automate stuff that's your marketing, that's your practice, that's like behind the scenes as well, to kind of give you a bit more headspace to say, right, okay, especially if you don't like things and not great at sales or not great at various other bits, or that's not your preferred bit, can I get some of this automated? Can I do things that are going to help me to give me back that kind of headspace and give me back that time to do the stuff that I really enjoy or where we are with it?
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just looking at the comments, Laura, and I could just see even, with what Jennifer and Jane have outlined, there is that need and that want to automate. So Jennifer noted that she wants to automate data checks, which is really important. Doing that manually will take time. So what tools are out there? So thank you for sharing that, Jennifer. And Jane was kind of highlighting that she really wants to like continue to expand her client base, but wanting to know what softwares are out there to really just automate things to free up time. So you could just see already from what's being said that there is a lot of people are recognizing that there's room to grow, there's room to spend time on things that you want to do, but how do you do that with what you have now? So thank you, Jane, and I'm sure we'll be able to give you some more answers, and Jennifer, as we move through this. So great. I believe I've got a raised hand. I don't know. Olga, if you want to perhaps pop something in the comment, that would be great. But until then, whilst we wait for your question, I'll launch the next poll, which just delves further into just wanting you to share more about what challenges you are facing at the moment when it comes to automation. So I'll just launch this shortly, and please do let us know. This bit's so cool when you see all the answers just trickle in.
Good thing is most of you are answering as well. It's always for worrying when you put a poll up and you get like we've got 45 odd people on the thing and we get like 10 answers. So thank you for answering the poll. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for interacting with us, because yeah, we need your answers to be able to make sure that you take something from today's webinar. So I could already see there's a lot of challenges around reporting and analytics, practice management. So you've got 37% of the audience are having issues around practice management and 33% around reports and analytics, which is big. And yeah, we've got a bit around payments, accounts receivables, accounts payables. So thank you. Great. So let me just share the results. Can you see it on your end, Laura?
Yep, I can do. Yep.
Okay, I'll just share the results for you all to see, because sometimes you may have a pain point or a challenge. You may think I'm the only one, but you can see that there are so many people in this webinar today who are also in the same position. But what we're going to do here, this is going to be a safe space for us to just seek advice and see if there's anything that we could use moving forward. So really appreciate all of your inputs. Thank you. Perfect. So on that note, we'll move to the next segment, which is focusing primarily on the reality of bookkeeping today. So yes. So in terms of for yourself, Laura, like bookkeeping has evolved significantly over the last few years. And there's many people, as you've already seen, who are still bogged down with that manual task or that manual process of things. And what we don't want is the people in the bookkeeping community to continually be in that cycle, and things like burnout happen, or things like stress. That's ultimately what can happen if there's no solution, right? So I mean, from your end, how does have you ever been in a position where you've worried about that repetitive task or manual way of doing things? And how, if so, if that's happened, how has that impacted your well-being overall?
Yeah, well, I suppose my whole business is geared around that. Because I have a chronic illness, I've always, from the very first time I became a bookkeeper, because I could fit it around my health and I could fit it around my lifestyle. And then I've always done that, of looking at ways to kind of, how can I automate, how can I make things better that don't take me that don't take my kind of energy away, that don't add that stress to a certain thing. So I don't do payroll and I don't do tax, partly for that reason of kind of the additional stress. I like working with an accountant or a couple of accountants that can kind of come in, look over everything, make sure they're happy. And I don't have those same, I still have the VAT deadlines, but I don't have those same like really tight deadlines, things that are really pushing me to kind of add to my stress and my emotional energy. And also that's why I haven't grown a team, because I've tried in the past with subcontractors, and I found I've spent more time and energy sort of managing them than I have managing my clients. And when you have a restricted energy, it's kind of, okay, I need to I kind of set my business up so that I focus my energy on my clients and what I enjoy doing. So my whole practice is basically, how do I avoid hitting that brick wall of burnout, because I hit it very quickly having a chronic illness. So for me, it's like, what can I do? What are the very small things, the incremental gains that are going to save me 1 to 2 minutes a day per task? But actually, how do I build that up into a practice that then is more efficient, that is more kind of working seamlessly, without actually me needing to focus my energy, like me focus my energy on the core bits, the bits that really matter, the bits that really add value, and actually let the other bits be dealt with by systems, by automation, so that they're still running and I've still got control of them and I know what's happening, and that's a bigger picture. But actually, I'm not spending all my time and energy and emotional energy on the very small bits, because actually that doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve my clients.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, thank you for sharing about your health, and that you do have a chronic illness, and that you've been able to almost turn what I say, your pain into purpose. And you've built a business that is accommodating your clients in the best way, but equally accommodating you. Because if you don't have that time to yourself, or if you do experience burnout, how do you show up? How do you show up, especially if you've got a health condition? And even for me, on my end, there's been times where I've experienced depression, I've experienced burnout. And as a result of going through that in general, I've understood that your mental health is so important. It's so important. And it's something that I think we need to really ensure that we value in general, because we all love what we do, we all love our jobs, we all love where we're at, but how do we take it to the next level where we could do our job to the maximum but also look after ourselves? And I love that you said you've built your business around that and you're showing up in the best way, Ara. So
And I think that's the thing, because we love our jobs, we want to do a really good job for our clients. We want to help our clients. I know most bookkeepers I know want to go above and beyond and help clients. But there's always a balance of, you can help clients, but like if they're messaging at 10 p.m. at night, or you haven't set the boundaries, or they're messaging you on a bank holiday, or whatever that is, that then drains you more sometimes to not be able to provide your best service. So I have also, on occasion, this year I went through a bit of an exercise, and I actually sacked a couple of clients, because I just said to myself, they're not, I like the work, but actually if I'm dreading when they call, or I'm dreading getting that email from them, or they're not respecting my time and like messaging me all weekends and evenings and all the rest of it, and it's not like a VAT deadline day, I need to actually protect myself as well. So sometimes it's kind of like, you take on clients and you go through a journey when you're in business. You don't like at the beginning, you're like, I'll take every client I can get. I want all this kind of, I want to grow, I want to do things. And then you kind of learn a little bit about yourself. And it's okay to turn around to a client and say, actually, I don't think we're the right fit for you anymore. I'm not able to help you. I'm not able to do my job to the best of my ability if I'm scared about that client, if I'm concerned, if I'm worried, if that client's adding stress, because I know I'm going to get a nasty email or an email that's kind of, why haven't you done this when you've already done it? Or they haven't understood, or one, like you can educate clients, but if they're continually kind of breaking those boundaries and kind of expecting more than is reasonable, it's okay to actually turn around and say, I'm really sorry, I think you should go elsewhere, or I can find you someone else that can work with you, because actually we're not the right fit anymore and this isn't working. I'm not able to provide my best level of service to you because I am. You don't have to say because you're breaking the boundaries, or you don't have to say that, but you can just say, I'm not able to offer my best level of service for you. We're not suited. I think it's better you go elsewhere. So sometimes it's about saying no as well. And that is a really, really difficult thing and takes quite a lot of time and energy and years of experience, because you always say no and then you think, oh crap, should I have done that? But there's a lot to kind of, as you grow in business, there's things you can learn. And actually, growth isn't just about how many clients you have or how much money you make. There's a lot of personal growth that goes on as a role in business as well.
Yeah, that is so good. That's so good. And I think just in terms of business, and as a business, the main aim is to, maximize revenue and profits, right? And reduce losses. But to your point, Lara, like not all good money is good money. And sometimes there's certain scenarios where you have to say no because the clients may not be aligned. And even at Approval Max, and I'll go into what we do just generally later on in the webinar, but we're very big on ensuring that any business that we work with or any clients that we deal with are aligned to us. So for example, if we have a demo with them, we'll ask questions like, where are you at right now? And if we do find that it's not aligned, then it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So that's a really, really good point for those of you who are looking to scale, just like yourself, Jane, that not every client that you have, or every client that may inquire about your services or your bookkeeping services are going to be clients that you may have in the future. So that's great. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next segment, and we're going to go on to the role of automation when it comes to stress management. This is what we want. How can we go on holiday, put our feet up in Dubai, but do our jobs and reduce stress? So we'll move on to that segment. So just for yourself, Lara, in terms of moving on to like solutions and automation isn't necessarily about just improving efficiency. It's about also improving your quality of life, as we've already touched on, which is big. So you could show up and be the best self or cater to your health, as you've already highlighted. So, I mean, for you, how has that looked in terms of the automation for you on a day-to-day basis?
I think, first of all, automation is a journey, as I said before. You've got to kind of step your toe in a little bit, test it, get there, be confident with it, and then you can kind of take it from there. But for me, as I say, I would not be able to run my practice without OCR. That was one of the first things I implemented in 2016 was that OCR programs to kind of get that data entry out of the way. Because as I say, data entry is core, it's really, really important, but equally it's something that's very repetitive, takes a lot of energy. And now you're seeing the next level that comes with AI alongside that OCR side of things. So there is a kind of lot around that that you can do. And then it's, what other tasks do you actually do on a regular basis? What are the things that, is it that you send an email to every single client once a week asking for their paperwork? Well, can you have a template for that? Can you have an email template set up? So when we're talking about automation, it's not just like the big Gen AI stuff. There's lots of little things you can do. You can, like, can you set up email templates? Can you set up reminders to go out on things? If you've got a practice management system, something like Engager, can you use that to the automations within that? Can you do these things that kind of right, okay, what do I need to do every day? So it is a case of looking at your day and looking at the time that you spend on your day. So time tracking, not from an hourly billing point of view, but actually how much time am I spending on these different tasks? And then looking at, right, okay, what could I do to make that easier for me and easier for the client? Because if you make it easier for you, but you make it more difficult for the client's never going to actually adopt those practices. You need to make it as easy for your client as possible so you can make your life easier. And it's about communication as well, making sure you're communicating those things with your clients. So if you are off on holiday, make sure you give your clients lots of notice so that you can get everything planned and prepped and ready and around sorted so that actually, hopefully, there should be nothing coming up when you're on holiday. But there's lots of things you can do, as I say, like look at there's some great AI tools out there. There's some great bots out there. Obviously, all of the softwares are bringing out, or quite a few of the big softwares are bringing out co-pilots and these kind of things. We're looking at Just Ask Zero coming out later this year. There's a lot of kind of, they understand the knowledge of what's out there and that we want this automation and we want these systems, but it's just about finding the right ones for you. So there's so many different options out there nowadays that if you really love something or someone tells you they really love it and you hate it, you don't have to use it just for the sake of someone else saying they love it, because actually that's going to add stress to you. I always say I'm a Zero person, but I've got no issue with people using QuickBooks if they prefer the way it looks and if they prefer the way it kind of works for them. I'd rather be happy with the system than use the best system out there and struggle with it, because that's going to add stress. That's going to take away your enjoyment. So it's about finding the systems that work best for you and your clients. I think is really key. And then we've got these, like, definitely follow these tips, because we've got this whole thing of dip your toe in the water, test it, speak to your peers, speak to people like me, speak to ADCO, speak to ICB. We've got loads of webinars, branch meetings galore. Go and ask other people what they're using and what they like. Go and try it for you and your clients, and then kind of see whether it works and then tweak it from there. It's an evolving process. It's always changing. It's always growing with you and your practice. And there are just so many things, as I say, like RPA. There's a few of those coming out at the moment now with robotics that can like do your bank recs for you on bank match rules and these kind of things. That's something I've used for the last few years. And mine reconciles about 1,500 transactions a month across my clients. So those are things that are really basic. It's encouraged me to set up the bank rules in Xero and use them properly. So if it's insurance, if it's bank fees, if it's all sorts of the little things that we don't need paperwork for and we know they're never going to change, use those bits. And also use the automation that's in your systems. If you're using OCR and it's got auto publish on it, for things like telephone bills, can you set them to auto-publish? Can you set your EDF bills, your electricity bills to auto-publish, so that you're actually using the systems to the best of their abilities as well?
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, I'm sure that you've all taken so much from just what Lara just said in general about automation. And I'll also touch on a bit about what we do here at Approval Max, because our system is essentially an accounts payable automation tool. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Approval Max, we essentially plug into accounting systems such as QuickBooks, Xero, NetSuite, and Sin7 Core. And you're able to pull in financial documents such as a bill, a purchase order into Approval Max, and you could set up all of these various intricate approval workflows in order to get something approved. So let's say one of your clients is having trouble just doing that process manually. Or for me, I speak to so many businesses who have, unfortunately, in the past been victim of AP fraud. One particular accountant had a client, and I met them at Xerocon a few months ago, and they were literally like, their chief financial officer in the business was able to fraud various different invoices and steal a significant amount of funds and money from the business. Now, if you have a software like Approval Max, you've got that ability to see what's going on, see who's approving. And there's so many different things, as you can see here, that we have within the software that can help. So I know, Lara, you've touched on OCR. That in itself is very much a manual process. It can take hours to do. But the good thing is at Approval Max, we've literally just launched our own internal OCR tool. So let's say you've got an invoice that you want to extract that data from. We have that within the software, and you're able to pull that in, which is great. And that in itself can save you hours. Time that you could use more effectively, whether it's gaining more clients, whether it's strategizing as a business, things like that. You want to be able to avoid doing that manually. Another thing that's really great about the system is things like segregation of duties. So this is huge. This is huge. You never want one person to do everything. And I'm so sure even for you, Lara, like even if you're using softwares or tools, you want to make sure that you've got yourself or any other eyes on that too, because we could also make errors when it comes to using softwares or tools. So things like that we have in Approval Max, where, for example, you could say this person is only assigned to approving this invoice or bill, whereas this person has the role of paying. So it's not the same person who's creating that bill being the same person who pays or approves. So that ensures that it's good.
And also that can be you and your clients. So you can do that either way round. I love the new review step as well. So your client can like put in that information using the OCR. If they're not sure where that actually needs to be coded to, or whether that VAT rate's right, then you can kind of, it comes to you, you can review it, you can tweak those things so that it's correct before it goes to the accounting system. And then if they've got an FD or a CFO, that can then go to someone for sign off, right? Okay, this has gone through your senior management, this has gone through the bookkeeper, and now we're ready. We're sure that it needs to be paid. Now it's your job to pay it. So even like Jane was saying, for the tracking categories and things like that, you can use Approval Max to make sure that if you're dealing with charities and they need restricted funds and they need tracking categories, that's a really good use case for Approval Max and making sure that everything's in the right place. And the same with budgets. If you've got clients that have really strict budgets as well, you can use Approval Max to make sure that they're within those budgets and they're there. It doesn't need to be a big company. Even for one of mine, I've got 2 or 3 people in the business, so a director and then a couple of people under them. So it might be that, right, okay, one person, the admin person, puts it into the system, I review it, and then it goes to the director to make those payments. That's 3 people, that's all you need. But it's got 3 sets of eyes on it. So the admin person's doing their job to the best of their ability. It's keeping them out of Xero and QuickBooks as well, so you can catch those errors before they go into the accounting software, because we always know how difficult it is to like clean it up, and you kind of like, oh, why did they code that there, or what, that really shouldn't have been there, or yeah, we've claimed VAT on a VAT payment, all those kind of things. It keeps them out of the accounting software, but they're still involved in the process. So you've got that ability to kind of tweak and amend and make sure those corrections are correct, all those items are correct, before it gets pushed to an approved state within the accounting software, or before it gets through to the director for payment. So there are loads of the great thing about Approval Max is it adds in, especially with capture and payments now, you've got basically a system that you can give to your clients that will do the whole thing, but without them needing to be in that accounting system. And also, if you've got clients where they've got admin people, but they don't want them to see Xero, because obviously we know that if you give people access to the bank, they can see everything. So if you've got those user restrictions and you've got a client where they don't want to see the people because they don't want to see other people's wages, or they don't want to see what's in the bank, that's fine. You can give them Approval Max and you can say, right, okay, you see your items, you see everyone's items, but they're not actually going to see the bank feed. They're not going to see those transactions. You've got a lot more control with your clients on what they see and what they have access to. And as I say, everything can go by you before it goes into the accounting system. Whereas with some OCRs, like, you can just you either you have to do that and you have to say no one can touch it and I do all the publishing, or you kind of say, right, okay, the client can publish it, but what's the risk of the client getting it wrong? So it's always a bit of a balance. And I think that's where Approval Max becomes a really good centre ground. And I think as well, the reporting that goes on in Approval Max as well, you can do a lot of customised reporting. You can help clients see where their bottlenecks are as well and where their problems are. Or, oh, hang on, because it will flag if they're going over budgets, if they've got budgets, if they're using purchase orders and they get purchases in that are more than their purchase orders. All these kind of things you can flag, and it will help give them visibility and control, because that's what clients want at the end of the day, visibility and control. And it's quite difficult to kind of, you can give them that, but you can also take away that stress from them of kind of having to do that. But then the system takes away that stress from you, because it's going to like read all that information, and it's going to know if it's a certain supplier, you can set up your workflows, or a certain chart of accounts, you can set up that workflow. So there's a lot of automation within it that you can utilize without actually negating any of those benefits of that control and visibility.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lara. And Jane just mentioned, wow, fab. I'll take a look. So yeah, just for those of you potentially looking at a software like Approval Max, we will circulate details following the webinar. So you're more than happy to also book in a demo. I know Mehul's also wanting to book a demo, but these are softwares that are out there on the market that can literally help with data entry, accuracy, and they're available. They are available. And just moving on to the next segment, which essentially covers what we've already touched on, Lara, with looking at various different apps. So boosting efficiency and accuracy. So you've already highlighted a few systems and softwares and tools that you use, but it'll be good to delve further into that. So if you were to look at, on a day-to-day basis, what kind of softwares or tools do you use? And that this could potentially be helpful for those on the call who may want to be looking at the next steps to just help them.
Well, one of the things that came up was data and analytics and review. I think someone said, Jennifer said about kind of reviewing things. And one of the great ones out there is Xenon. Again, ICB accredited software. Go and have a chat. I'm sure Gareth will be at Summit if you're at Summit. But yeah, go have a chat and go have a look at Xenon. And it's it basically looks at your Xero file and sees what's in there and looks for things that don't quite look right. So how have you coded something before and how have you coded it now? Has that changed? Are the tax rates the same? Have you got duplicate invoices in there? Have you got a credit note that's like 12 months old and never been applied? Have you coded something directly from the bank, but actually the invoices come in later and they haven't been matched up? So I think they're now up to 18, 19 different checks that you can do. And it's a really low cost fee as well. So you're looking at a couple of pounds a client to give you that second set of eyes across the database and across what's in Xero. It works with Xero, QuickBooks, and Free Agent at the moment. So it's giving you that kind of review status. So I use it definitely at that quarter end, month end, year end, but I'm like doing a massive cleanup for a client. I've just taken on a new client and I've like stuck everything in. And now I'm kind of trying to unpick things. So Xenon Connect's been really helpful for that. And it also shows you all the stats around transactional data as well. So if you're pricing on a transaction basis, you can actually look at some of those stats within Xenon Connect and make sure you're not going over scope creep and you're not billing clients. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes a PITA client isn't a PITA client. They are just paying the wrong amount. So again, if you're pricing clients properly, and you're not scared to say, I always used to give people discounts. I'm that person. But if you're pricing clients properly and you're getting paid for the work you're doing, then sometimes that can take some stress away, because otherwise you're like, well, why am I doing all this work when they're paying like nothing? So again, Xenon can help with that. And then you've got the reporting side. I know that was a big one that came up on our system, on the poll. And you've got systems out there like Futrally, Float, Sift Analytics, these kind of things that can give you some of that cash flow reporting, some of that management reporting side of things. And again, work collaboratively with the clients on it. So understand what your clients want and what they expect. And what kind of reporting do they need? Xero has got great customized reports in it now. You can build whatever report you need and want, but sometimes you need something a little bit more. So there are a lot. Again, if you haven't checked out the ICB accreditation reports, that would be my go-to. Go to the software bit of the website, go and check out the accreditation reports, because that is a bookkeeper using that software and telling you what they like with it with their clients. So that will give you a really good use case on those. And there's definitely lots of reporting softwares in there. So go and have a look at those. Go and talk to your peers. Go and say, right, okay, I've got this problem. I've got this use case, or I really like this. I really want to be able to offer this to my clients. What's the best way to do that? So use your network, use your ICB network, use the ICB resources. Obviously, loads of webinars. As I say, come to Summit. If you haven't come to Summit, or if you're not booked in for Summit, come to Summit, because you'll get to go speak to some of the vendors and speak to people and get a feel for software out there. There's also Accountex North, Accountex Summit coming up in a couple of weeks, second week, 17th of September. Go and actually speak to people at stands. A, because it's a great way to get to know people, great way to network, and meet people in person. But B, because you can go and stand in front of a vendor, or go and look around a room and compare like for like, and kind of say, right, okay, I need these bits, but I don't want that bit, and actually see what's fitting. Because the demos are great, and the Approval Max are great, and the guys that do the demos are brilliant at Approval Max. But sometimes it can be a bit overwhelmed, because you kind of you've got to remember what you've done, and you've got to remember what you asked, and those kind of things. It can be easier to just kind of do it all in one day and go and see everyone and kind of have them all in front of you. So those are two big areas I definitely look at if you're kind of if those are your problems, as they were in most of the chat. And then the other one was obviously the practice side of things. Now, Johan will be around, definitely. So if you haven't looked at Engager, and you are looking for a practice management tool, that is obviously loved by a lot of bookkeepers. And they are, I use it personally. I moved across this year to it, and it has some of those automations in there. So you can email out when it's your VAT quarter end for clients. You can automatically email them out and say, it's your VAT quarter end. Can you please make sure you've sent me everything? There's some bits that you can do in that, and you've got the task management. You've got your AML side of things as well within that. If you connect it up to Zama. I know this week there's a bit of an AML firm check doing have been doing their AML summer series as well. So there's a lot going on AML at the moment, and there's some new ones coming out there. So definitely go and kind of talk to people, see what they're using, see how you think, and then go and kind of have a demo, have a play around with these.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Jennifer's mentioned that, Lara, you're becoming the most useful person for other bookkeepers.
Thank you.
Great feedback. So really, yeah, thank you for that comment, Jennifer. Yeah, Lara's definitely amazing. And even after this webinar, you're more than welcome to connect with Lara just in general, because as you can see, a wealth of knowledge, a superwoman, superpower. So thank you for that. So I'm conscious of time, so we're going to move swiftly to the next segment. And I guess the next segment is just about achieving work-life balance. And I know we've pretty much touched on it throughout this webinar, that whole thing of using technology to really get that balance in your life, right? But just around that area, Lara, do you have any tips or any like practical tips that you could just give just specifically around that work-life balance?
I think don't be scared to block time out for yourself. So if you're scared to go away, if you're scared to do something you enjoy, then because you're like, oh, well, what happens if I miss? What happens if I do something? Don't be. I think you need to retain control yourself. So if you like getting up and working at 6 a.m., get up and work at 6 a.m. I am not a morning person. For reference, you will not see me at anything before 9 a.m. But occasionally I'll work till 7 p.m. because I might have had a quiet morning, or that might suit me. So you run a bookkeeping business because that's what you want to do. That business has to work for you. Fit that business around your life. If it's you've got kids and you want to finish at 3 o'clock, brilliant. If it's that you really like working early, you can always set delays on emails so clients don't know that you're working out of hours. Out of hours. You work when you work. If you want to have a day off in the week and actually it means you have to work Saturday morning for a couple of hours, or you have 2 or 3 days off in the week, there's nothing wrong with that. Your business should look like you want it to be. And as long as you're not feeling like you're always having to work and you're always having to be available, then do that. Like this week, I've been on and off a bit. There's bits going on in my life. My husband's off. So I haven't actually, I moved a client. I've done a few things. I went car shopping yesterday, which didn't go very well, but various things because actually I had the freedom to do that. But then at 6:30 last night, I sent a couple of emails out because I thought, right, okay, I'll do that ahead of this. So it's just about making it work for you. For me, this year, I've captained our golf league team. So that means on a Wednesday afternoon, once a month, I've been out of the office for 5 hours and I haven't been looking at my phone during that time because I've had to concentrate and focus on winning at the golf. But it's been okay because I've managed my own expectations, I managed my clients' expectations, and I managed my workload around that. So it's just about putting these things in so that you don't have that fear around it, because that's going to make you more stressed. So you don't have to apologize for what you want to do. It's your business at the end of the day.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, this is so important because you never want your day to be controlled fully where you just don't have time for yourself. And I mean, some tips that I'll share on my end is if you are having perhaps a client meeting, could you do it whilst having a walk? You know, especially now we're in the summer, for many of us who are based in the UK, you've got that benefit where you're doing your job, you're catering to your client, but you're also benefiting yourself. And I think it's so important that we don't just stick to our desk and get glued to our desk. As you can see, I'm working from home. I know you are, Lara, on your end, but there's ways where we could also support ourselves mentally and also do our job in the best way. And I just, as you can see, that there's a question up just for you guys to answer, and feel free for anyone who wants to share in the chat. Like if you were to have all the hours, extra hours in the world for yourself or for the business, what kind of things would you do with that time? Because that's what, that thought in itself is what's going to get you to really take these steps or tips that Lara has mentioned throughout this webinar to the next level. Because there's so many webinars out there, but when you visualize where you want to go, where you visualize where you want to, what your life to look like, that's where you can actually be proactive.
Yeah, and I think Richard's comment about that over motivation, that can lead to overwhelm. I think as bookkeepers, we try to do so much. We try to help our clients. We're trying to run our business. So sometimes it's about taking that time for ourselves and taking that step back. And that's one of the things I actually worked with a coach over the last year to actually kind of not take on so much, because I was trying to I had all these ideas, all these brilliant ideas in my head, and I tried to implement them all at once. And I ended up like completely overwhelmed. So sometimes it's just about like, okay, what's the 3 month plan? What's the 6 month plan? What's the 12-month plan? What's the 1 year, 2 year plan? You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to be superwoman. You don't have to try and manage everything. We see an idea, we go out and we think, yeah, that's really good. And then it's like, but actually, how do I implement that? How do I get that into my practice? And it's okay to say to someone, even if it's a software vendor, really like it, but I don't have the time right now to implement that. It's on my priority. It's on my kind of to-do list. I'll come back to you in 3 months, 6 months, whatever that is, and focus on one thing at a time.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I love that point, Richard. Yeah, over motivation can very much be dangerous. So yeah, we could see that well-being and that mental health aspect is so key in order to just function as bookkeepers. So thank you. So moving on to, well, we're finalizing the webinar shortly, but we're just going to be finally ending on the topic of just reigniting your passion for bookkeeping, because that's what we want. You guys are all phenomenal, incredible bookkeepers, but I'm sure there's moments where you're just like, you know? So how can you reignite that and not lose that? And as we've already outlined throughout this webinar, there are so many different softwares and tools on the market. As Laura's mentioned, use your network, use, like, collaborate with people, seek advice, see what's out there, because there are tools that can literally change your life, change your day to day, and give you that time that you need to spend with your family, go on holiday, spend with your loved ones, but equally do your job and adding value, that value add that Lara's mentioned throughout this. But it'll be good to just get your views on this, Lara, just in general, of how you what you would advise about reigniting people's passions around bookkeeping.
As I say, don't be afraid to feel like you have to do it all. If you love tax and that's all you want to do, and you want to do hundreds of self-assessments or even 20 self-assessments, but you really love self-assessments, do that. Don't look at anyone else and compare yourself to them, because you won't have the passion that they have if you aren't true to yourself. So be true to yourself. As I say, I don't do payroll, I don't do tax because I don't enjoy it. So why should I do something that I don't enjoy when I know there's so many other people out there that really do, and I can use my network and I can use my friends and my ICB family to actually take those pressures off me. So if you've got a service niche, if you've got a client type you really like working with, like, identify some of those bits around that. And actually, for a friend, I actually built a matrix for that to kind of help her identify what she really liked doing so she could use that to take her business in that direction. Because it's like, it doesn't have to be a service niche, it doesn't have to be a client niche, it could be anything you enjoy doing, because we provide our best service if we love what we're doing. And as bookkeepers, we're in this because we love what we're doing. So use that to your advantage. Don't take on clients that you're like, oh, well, I should really, but I don't really want to. And as I say, it's always fine to let clients go as well. That's not a sign of disappointment or a sign of kind of failing. That's a sign of growth. So just look at your business and say, is there something you really enjoy doing? I noticed someone the other day, I know in my LinkedIn network, and they turned around and they said, actually, I'm going to get rid of most of my bookkeeping clients and I'm going to be a payroll only bureau because I love doing payroll. It's absolutely fine. There is so much work out there that even if you see someone and you think, well, I can never do what they're doing, but I'd really like to, it's fine. You do it, because there's so much work out there, and there's only going to be more with MTD, ITSA, and various things coming out, and the amount of new businesses starting in the UK. We are in competition, but we're not really. So you do what you love and don't feel pressured. If you don't want to do your tax exams, if you don't want to do level fours, fine. I haven't done level fours. I've been ICB qualified for almost 15 years. I've never touched a level four workbook. I have some that are around the house, but I've not actually done anything about them. And I've built a business around that. So your business is going to thrive more if it's doing what you love. So don't feel pressured by anyone to do anything, because actually, at the end of the day, you're going to regret it 5-10 years down the line, and that's going to add to your stress and your chance of burnout.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I love that point about just service a niche. You don't have to do everything and anything. And realistically, if you were to take on all those hats, can you add value? Or are you just going to be just doing things for the sake of it for your clients because you think that's how you're going to get in revenue? So that's a good practical tip for a lot of people, bookkeepers within this webinar, who are looking to continually grow and scale. And I know Steve has just popped in the chat that I'm glad you say, Laura, that there's work out there and still work out there. And Stephen's looking for your first client. So hopefully after this webinar, Stephen, once you do get your first client, do let us know. But I'm confident very soon you'll have a lot of clients, because you're in the right spaces, you're gaining the knowledge, and you're getting the tips. So that's great. That's great. And I mean, just even on that, Lara, like, cast your mind back to when you first started and you were also you were trying to get your first client, and you may have had worries of, could I do it? Like, just for Stephen, who's just put in the chat, do you have any tips in that space when you're starting from the beginning?
So I literally went around my little town that I live in and knocked on everyone's business doors and introduced myself to them. So I did that. I put a flyer in our local newsletter. And I spoke to my friends and family and was like, my mum's best friend is a psychologist, and she was like, I hate numbers, and I've got an accountant and they do the year end, but I'd like someone to help in between and get me up to date and reduce my year end costs a bit as well, and make sure, keep me all on track and keep me organized. So for the last 15 years, I've done her books. So just speak to people around you, talk to people and say, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what I love. It's really scary. I'm not a salesperson. I hate it. So I found it really difficult to go and stand in front of someone and say, I've started a business. But there's loads of networking, online networking, in-person networking, and speak to other bookkeepers, speak to other accountants, local accountancy firms out there, because sometimes they want to outsource some work to you as well. They again, if they're focusing on the bits they love, sometimes they outsource the bookkeeping. So go and speak to other people in your network, and I'm sure there's loads of tips and tricks as well you can find from ICB people. Some ICB members just do subcontract work for other ICB members. So go and have a word with some people out there. Go and kind of you have to not be afraid to put yourself out there and not be afraid to be rejected. It's not being rejected, but it can feel like it. So just kind of go and speak to people and say, look, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm planning, this is what my passion is. Can I help you? Is there something? Because it might not be that those people you speak to at the beginning need help, but they might speak to a friend or someone else and they go, oh yeah, well actually, I was speaking to a bookkeeper the other day. So like my mortgage broker called me up last week and I was like, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, but I think I might need your help. Now I wasn't expecting that at all. But you start connecting. So just tell everyone you know what you're doing, and you'll start to have people come back to you with kind of remembering you, and hopefully come back to you as clients. And I'm sure once you get that first client, it takes a little bit of time to kind of build those first three to five clients, and then as word of mouth gets out and you get reputation and you start to get more confident with it, you'll find that you kind of can grow to the levels, whatever level you want to grow to.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So start small, get yourself out there, Stephen. We expect to see you everywhere now at networking events, online. So yes, and to your point, Laura, once you get that 3 to 5 clients, it will just grow organically. And it may not be at the speed you want, but as with any business, it does take time. And I think sometimes we may have false expectations, or we put so much pressure on ourselves, but that one client is one more than you had before, right? And I love the fact that you said you've got people around you that you could start off with. Is it your neighbor? Is it people within your community? And servicing people closest to you is such a powerful thing, because they will be the ones that are almost like your advocates, and they're recommending you. So thank you for that. And oh, Jennifer said that's really, really encouraging. So yes, we're kind of now nearing the end, but we've got some time for some questions. So I'll give you guys some minutes to put some questions in the chat if you have anything there, or any feedback too. But whilst we wait for questions to trickle in, I do want to thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope you've all taken something from this. As you can see from Lara's experience, there's support, there's a community, there's a network, and people who understand where you're at. I know sometimes it can be lonely when you think you may be going through a certain thing, or you may be the only one dealing with reporting or analytics problems. But as you can see from this webinar alone, there's so many other people who are also in the same position, and there's support out there. So yeah. So do feel free to drop any Q&A questions in there. And Laura, do you have anything else to add?
I was going to say, always, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Always feel free to reach out to either of us if you've got Approval Max questions. If you've got other questions, feel free to drop me a DM, and I'll sort of point people in the right directions if they need it, or if you've got some things. So I think there's there is Gillian asked if it's recorded. So yes, it is recorded, Gillian. It will go out again, and we will share it as well. But yeah, if there's any things we can help with, either from the Approval Max side, Miriam will be happy to help, or if there's some things I can point you with. There's also some previous ICB webinars I've done around software and things that are on the ICB webpage, and I will be around. As I say, I'm going to be at Accountex and I'm going to be at Summit, so come say hi. I know Miriam will be around, and the Approval Max team will be around at a few of them as well. So come say hi, come introduce yourself, and if you don't want to put a question in the chat now, but you want to come up and ask us at one of the events, we'll be more than happy to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So as Laura said, do connect with us. We're here. You're not alone. So don't think this webinar is it. We will be circulating the recording after the call. Feel free to connect with us. Approval Max is pretty much on every platform, LinkedIn, YouTube, you name it, we're everywhere. And I too, I'm on LinkedIn too. So feel free to connect with us in general. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you all for just being here, interacting with us, and just making this webinar happen. So wishing you a lovely day, and let's prioritize our mental health. Let's prioritize, because that's how we're going to become our best selves and really just pour into the clients that need us. So yeah.
Yeah, no. I think that's the thing is you've got a great platform, you've got a great opportunity, but make it work for you. That's the most important thing.
Great. Have a lovely day all. Thank you so much for being with us, Lara. We really appreciate you as our, yeah. So thank you. And take care, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.